Michigan State had no business losing at home to James Madison on opening night. But does that mean we should be jumping off the Sparty train? In the immortal words of Home Alone's Kevin McAllister, did I burn down the joint? I don't think so.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host today, Isaac Shade, and I want to thank you everydayers for making us your first listen or watch every single day to get your very favorite college basketball content out there. If you'd like to be an even bigger part of this community, come join our Discord where we're talking about college basketball all day long. If you're a hoops head and you want to be in on that, the link is in the show notes on both video and audio. Come join us. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Coming up on the show today, we're having a conversation across these United States of America, 3 different time zones. I'm going to be joined by the host of Locked On UCLA, Zachary Anderson Yaxheimer in the Pacific time zone. Cam Stewart of Locked On Baylor comes to us from Central Time Zone, but we're starting in the East with Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans. Let's get right to it. It's great to be joined today for the first time this college basketball season on Locked On College Basketball by our guy, Matt Sheehan, the host of Locked On Spartans. Go Sparty. And Matt, obviously wish it was under happier circumstances, and we'll have to do it again either ahead of or after the Champions Classic next week. But, we got this overtime loss to James Madison. We deal with it. We move on. But here's my question, right? Like, that's college basketball.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, right? Like, so after this opening night loss to JMU, people are inevitably going to come out of the woodwork to dump on Sparty and tell you why you should get off the train and that I had Sparty lower, all of that kind of thing that people like to retroactively pretend was a thing. So, Matt, here's my question to you. I need to know why I and the rest of America, and frankly, the rest of the world, should stay on the Michigan State train this season.
I'm going to start with talking about James Madison, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. Believe me, because I'm someone that if I was listening to a show like this, I wouldn't want to hear it either as a State fan, but James Madison, that's a fine team. Now, so good where they should come into the Breslin Center and beat a top 5 Michigan State team? Absolutely not. No. I'm not excusing this loss whatsoever, but man, that's a senior-led team. That's a team that's expected to win the Sun Belt, a team that has a Sun Belt preseason player of the year on it, and they play with tenacity. They play quick, really strong defense, and you can see it because every single player on the team and their head coach ended that game with 4 fouls. Like, that is a feisty bunch over there. So it was a tough-ish opponent to start the season with, which, again, no one wants to hear. I'm not excusing that loss. That was a really bad loss.
Sure.
But also, is Michigan State really going to shoot 1 of 20 the rest of the year? Like, that seems like an anomaly. It will take a little bit of a dip now that Joey Hauser is not on the team with his 45% three-point shooting. But, wow, I mean, Isaac, you just make 4 more three-pointers. Michigan State wins by 12 and they almost cover the spread. Like, it's just that simple of a night. And it wasn't like, they were missing tough shots. Like, these were nice wide open looks they were getting. Ball just didn't fall in the hoop. And that's the aggravating part about college basketball. Sometimes those games just happen. And again, whether people want to hear it or not, that is the fact of the matter. It's like, it was I'm reluctant to use the word fluky because that would suggest that James Madison didn't deserve to win. They 100% deserved to win. They came in as a more prepared team, the team with more effort, and the team that executed late in the game more. They earned that win 100%, but man, a lot of weirdness going on just on the stat line alone for Michigan State here. Like, the free throws, yeah, that'll take a dip too. 62% though? I don't know if you can count on that the rest of the year. So
yeah. So, I mean, that brings up a great question because it does feel anomaly-ish, if we can make that a word today, Matt. Like 1 of 20, as you said, from 3, 23 of 37 from the free throw line. As you said, don't want to take any, like TJ Bickerstaff is a phenomenal player. Terrence Edwards, a phenomenal player, right? So give James Madison their due, but you are absolutely spot on. A top 5 Michigan State team should not lose this in the Breslin Center. So the question is, talking about some of those statistical anomalies, I ran a Twitter poll on Tuesday and basically said this. I want to know everyone's thoughts on Michigan State's loss. Was it A, blip on the radar, B, revealing a chink in their armor, like a longer term issue, Or C, what's a James Madison, which, just for the non-college basketball people out there in the world, interestingly enough, that got 3.5% of the vote somehow. Now, Matt, here's what was interesting to me. I thought I would get more blip on the radar, but chink in the armor took 54% of the vote, while blip on the radar took 42%. Makes sense of that for me, and I would love to know how you would have voted if you voted in that poll.
I would have voted C because I couldn't choose between A and B. Like that's what I would have done. Like you like that one? That's right. Nice. Because like, we just named all the reasons why, hey, it's a blip on the radar. Fluky game. You're not going to shoot 5% all year from three-pointer. You're not going to have a complete zero of a game from AJ Hoggard, hopefully, and Jaden Akins at the same time. More times than not this season, right? But let's be real about this too. This wasn't all, just wonky numbers and missed shots here. Like, no, there are some glaring errors here for this Michigan State team, and a large reason why they were a 7 seed last year. And, well, you just mentioned TJ Bickerstaff. He went completely off. He had a double-double concerningly early in this game, and that's a guy that was just a 5-5 player at Boston College. And that leads to issue number 1, potentially, Michigan State's front court. Oh no. Yikes. We have a 4th-year player, Mady Sissoko, and to this point, he is who he is. Great kid. Awesome. Just ambassador of Michigan State. You can't say enough great things about the kid. Would have really loved to see a post move developed here in the 4 years he was here, or stand a little stronger on defense and not have another big man have a career night against Michigan State. And then you have Carson Cooper. He's the other guy, right? Sophomore, had like a 0-star kid. He had 2 offers from Eastern Michigan and ITT Tech, and Michigan State took a flyer on him. That's who we're putting our hopes in at backup center to maybe unseat Mady Sissoko. So the front court has some issues as well. And yes, I know that college basketball and basketball by and large is going to more small ball, but still, in college basketball, you need a guy that you can get the ball to in the post. At the end of the first half, when Michigan State was playing from behind most of it, they had 1 field goal attempt in the first half from their centers. Like, you need a little more than that, but it's not because, like, oh, they just forgot they exist. It's because that they're not an offensive threat. Like, that's going to be an issue here. So that's going to hamper the team. As good as the wings can be, as good as the guards can be, you look at the front court, you see Mady Sissoko. You see Carson Cooper. Yeah, he's trying his best out here, but still, And then Malik Hall. There's a lot of discussion amongst Michigan State fans about Malik Hall. Is it all the injury? Is it lack of development? Is it a cocktail of all those things? Who knows? But yeah, there's some concern with the front court here for Michigan State.
Well, Matt, I feel like so much of the conversation in the offseason was about like Xavier Booker is going to be phenomenal and all this. Like, is there a world? And I know he's like labeled a forward, but he's a 6'11" dude. Could, as he develops, because obviously it was Cohen Carr that was the freshman that got all the shine in this game. Do you see a world in which Xavier Booker unseats Mady Sissoko in the starting lineup? And maybe that's the answer by the time we're looking up in March.
I don't actually. I know that sounds absolutely insane because at one point this kid was a top 3 recruit. I think he finished in the top 15 or top 20, depending on what site you look at, but was McDonald's All-American. But this was something I was trying to preach to the Locked On Spartans listeners here is like, this is going to be a slow burn for Xavier Booker because he was rated that high for his ceiling. Like you see the flowy jump shot, like that looks good. He's got the frame, but he needs to add on weight. He needs to add on stamina because, well, he played 5 minutes games against James Madison because he blew 2 box outs in the first half in his 5 minutes there. And that led to James Madison rebounds. That led to points. Okay, like there is a reason why he only got 5 minutes. And I know it's driving a lot of State fans crazy because, well, make it work, Tom. He's a McDonald's All-American. It's like, there's still a way to go. This guy is 6'11", but he's also 90 pounds. Like, if you played him at center against TJ Bickerstaff might have even had a better game. Or, like, you throw him against, like, Cliff Amarui of Rutgers. Like, he's going for 35 and 20 like prime Shaq. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. So, yeah, it's weird to say that about a 6'11" kid, especially on a team that has center issues. But I don't know if he ever will take over a starting role at the center position. If it does happen, maybe it happens at the 4 position because he is kind of that stretchy guy. He doesn't have a three-point shot. But I think we saw in game 1 that if it's going to be a freshman, as soon as tomorrow maybe against Southern Indiana, it's going to be Cohen Carr taking over the starting role at the 4. Yeah.
From a team that didn't live up to expectations on opening night to a team that did the exact opposite, how exactly did Baylor score that comeback to beat Auburn, and how should we be feeling about the Bears this season? Locked On Baylor's Cam Stewart will join me to help unpack it in just a sec. right after I tell you that today's episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Jace Medical. We spend a lot of time together, you and I do. We get fired up on wins and losses, who starts, who sits. I'm thankful for that connection we have. And today, I want to chat a little more personally with you. Whether you're on an extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply chain shortage, you are covered, my friends. Thanks to our partners at Jace Medical, life-saving antibiotics, and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply. Even ED generics for Cialis, Viagra, all of those prescriptions ready for you. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember, use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half in order to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered the antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this service. So if you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember, use promo code locked on for $20 off your purchase. Again, promo code locked on for $20 off at Jace Medical. I am overjoyed to be joined by the first time for me, the host of Locked On Baylor, Mr. Cam Stewart, coming at us on the heels of a massive win for the Bears. I know that on yesterday's show, our guys Andy Patton and Leaf Tulane talked about this game, broke it down. But, man, we need to get that firsthand Baylor look at this. And so, Cam, it's such a pleasure to be talking for the first time. Thank you for making time. Cam's got a busy schedule here on Wednesdays. We're recording with Texas high school football, which is, as we all know, I'm married to a Texan dude, so I get it and I understand the drill. So here's what I want to do, Cam. I want to start off big picture. So let's start with some recalibration following this win over Auburn. We now have the benefit of about 24 hours of hindsight, having seen what we saw against an Auburn team that was picked 6th preseason in the SEC. And if they're 6th, the SEC is ridiculous because this Auburn team is infinitely better than I expected. Aiden Holloway is a dude, going to be one of the best freshmen in the country. And so here's my question to you, Cam. What are your season expectations now for Baylor having seen this? Have they grown? Have they lessened? Or have they stayed about the same?
All in all, it was a roller coaster of a night when it comes to these expectations and whether we need to curb them or what. So overall, it's kind of stayed the same. And I was high on this Baylor team going into the season. I was like, look, there's question marks, but from all we've seen, I just really like the way this team is trending, especially the identity that I thought this team was going to have that we saw a little bit of in the Auburn game, I thought is a better identity than what they had last year. So overall, I like it. I genuinely think, I might be getting too ahead of myself, but I had it a few days ago too, of like an Elite 8 Final Four type of team. I really do because of the depth they've got. Yeah. And so I was fully prepared to do my post-game show the other night of, kind of disappointed that they didn't win the games. I thought they were the better team, but I was going to beg Baylor fans like, hey, be patient. This team is going to come together. They showed a lot better habits than what we saw last year. And thankfully, I didn't have to do that. So there were still some of the same problems that they had a season ago in terms of like transition defense and rebounding on the defensive side, although they were much better on the offensive glass. And they kind of corrected it all in the last 5 minutes of the game. I don't know that there was a time in the game that they played poorly or that they just deserved to get beat up. Like they were down 9 and 8 at points in the second half. But overall, I thought at the end of the game, this is what we expected. Maybe some guys were a little different than what we expected, but overall with the team output, you played a good SEC team. I agree with you. I thought Auburn was a little underrated going into this game. I thought they were really underrated after this game. And you just can't say enough. First game of the season in a neutral site with the whistles going crazy for both sides, that you were able to withstand that even with some guys in foul trouble and come away with an impressive victory and 16-5 to end the game. You can't get much better than that.
No. Closing against a Bruce Pearl team and all his guards is always an impressive thing to be able to do.
And they broke the press too.
Yeah, I mean,
that was awesome.
That's insanely difficult. So, Cam, you talked about that last 5 minutes, and here's what was so interesting to me. Jacoby Walter is the name that everyone would already know as the freshman dude coming in. Last year it's Keontae. This year it's Jacoby. And man, did he show out. 28 points, perfect from the line, 4 of 7 from 3, 6-4, all of this stuff. But those last 5 minutes, man, it was another freshman to me who really, really turned, I won't say the tide, although I should say the tide since they were playing Auburn, turned the tide there for the Bears, and that's Yves Missi. And here's the thing with that. You talked about your question marks coming in. One of mine was, what will Baylor's front court be? Because I love Jonathan Tchamwa, but he's still kind of working his way back from that injury, that gruesome injury, and, should be great. But the thing was, if Yves Missi can be a dude alongside him, even coming off the bench in a good role, then that Baylor front court should be great to match what's going to happen in the backcourt, despite all the losses of Adam Flagler and LJ Cryer and Keontae off to the league. What was it about what Yves Missi did that is hopefully confirming some maybe front court fears for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point about the front court because it was worries I had too, and worries that weren't exactly thrown away in the first few minutes of the game. Jonathan Tchamwa, unfortunately, I don't know based off that game if he's going to get back to that level, that explosiveness that he had. He couldn't hang with a team that was going as fast as Auburn did, only played 6.5 minutes for the game. So that's still a big question mark on what he is going forward. He started. I didn't think he was going to. And the role that he has is definitely in question. But Missi, I mean, oh, man, that was fun. I just did not think, if you had told me with 5 minutes left in the game, hey, who's the first freshman you're going to talk about? And it wasn't Jacoby Walter, I would have been like, you're insane. But yeah, he didn't score the last 5 or so minutes, 6 minutes of the game, and they still pull away. He was awesome, but it was Missi that was making the plays. And what I thought about in the moment was, Scott Drew has never had a player like this. I mean, truly, at that position, he's never had what I mean, to Baylor in the modern era of Baylor and under Scott Drew, he's a unicorn at the 5. Like that steal and that ball handling and dunk to finish in a pressure situation is something we just wouldn't see. And they've had some good centers there and some good big guys. But to me, that shows that he's more than just a back to the basket rebounder. Not that he's going to be out pulling threes, but his pick and roll game, I think, is going to be dangerous. We didn't see a ton of it in game 1, but just based off that athleticism. And defensively, he was a little bit farther than what I expected. He wasn't excellent, but he had good footwork, which is something that Josh Ojenwuna, the other center, is still learning a little bit of, even though he's got a lot of athleticism. But he's an athletic guy who can put the ball on the floor.
At a legit 7 feet. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, man.
And a legit base, barely 18. I mean, remember, we reclassified Isaac. He was supposed to be in next year's class. And that is such a huge lift for Baylor in terms of that depth. And early on, he was keeping Janai Broome out of the cylinder there. And he did get worn down a little bit defensively, but I was like, hey, I wasn't expecting even that much early on. So very impressed on both ends of the floor.
And that's the thing, is he's going up against a top caliber SEC big in Janai Broome. And so
experienced one too.
Exactly. And so, I mean, you talked about that steal and dunk, because it's like the steal itself is impressive enough. The instincts to get in and get that. But then to see this gazelle of a dude glide, I mean, because a lot of 7-footers do that and it's herky jerky clunky. It was beautiful. And then in live in real time, I thought he missed the dunk. That's how fast and ferocious it was. But then, Cam, here's what I keep going back to. That was the play that put them ahead for good, put the Bears ahead for good. But then literally the next possession blocks an Auburn shot. Next possession after that goes back to the free throw line where he had just missed the and one after the dunk, makes both of those free throws to put, 4 points gap. So it's like that happened, my man, in such a quick flash. He's going to have down days, but that ceiling that Yves Missi has, boy, it is sexy to look at. Now, I want to go to the backcourt because we can't miss Jacoby Walter. One of my preseason observations that I want you to tell me how crazy I am, how dumb I am if I think this is true. I proposed that he might have a bigger impact on this Baylor team than even Keontae George did last year. Am I crazy, or is there some sanity to that?
That's one of the most sane things I've heard on this show, Isaac. No, seriously. I love Keontae. and just a tremendous player. Actually got his first start in the NBA last night with the Jazz. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. I really do. But it is a more favorable situation for Jacoby Walter to go into on this Baylor team, but I think he's definitely going to have more of an impact. And that's saying something. I think the offense doesn't have to run through him like it did with Keontae last year, who was, obviously true freshman at the point guard position, and their backup was Adam Flagler, who's a terrific scorer and not a point guard. Jacoby Walter doesn't need to play point guard on this team, and I don't think that's what he's going to play in the NBA. So I think it's perfect that they have the facilitators, they have a stronger backcourt, and he can score from every level, whereas Keontae was a three-point shooter, and that's what he does really well, and he was excellent at that. But I think Jacoby's game is going to help this team so much more than Keontae's did last year, and that's no shade on Keontae. Great player. Won some games for us, but I think Jacoby is going to be maybe the top freshman in the nation this year. And I might be crazy in saying that, but I think he is absolutely going to have a bigger impact and is going to help this team win more games.
Cam, thank you so much, brother. Can't wait to have you back.
Isaac, thanks for having me. Can't wait to be back. Let's talk some more Bears basketball soon.
We know Adem Bona, but the rest of UCLA's roster is an absolute puzzle to me. I need the help of Locked On UCLA's Zachary Anderson-Yaxheimer to help me solve it, and we'll do exactly that in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Prize Picks. You want to play along some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill or comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you could take LeBron's made three-pointers and Travis Kelce's receptions, which is set at a 10.5-point combo. I love this. How fun is that? Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. For example, the Panthers are in Chicago Thursday night. Bryce Young's passing yard set at 223.5. More or less, a really interesting decision to make right there. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now we're moving out west to UCLA. The host of Locked On UCLA, Mr. Zachary Anderson-Yaxheimer. Zachary, it's great to be together. And we want to take a look at this UCLA team that I've been trying to figure out all offseason, my man. But before we get into the of the Bruins in 23-24, let's talk about opening night. What I would call a comfortable win for UCLA over St. Francis, 75-54. Briefly fell behind midway through the first half, but built a 10-point halftime lead and then just pushed it out in the second half. And we got to start with Adem Bona, right? He's the known quantity. He's last year's Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. He's a preseason first-teamer this year. What a night for this dude. 28 points on 10 of 16 from the field, 8 of 11 from the charity stripe, come on, one more rebound, bro. Let's get that double-double, right? 9 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 4 blocks for Adem Bona. So, Yax, that's where I want to start. Just talk to me about how important it is, that Adem Bona came back and what it means that he can be like this kind of foundational linchpin for Mick Cronin's team this year.
Well, for UCLA, a 31-point win. They're probably one of the only teams in the country that can have a head coach extremely angry after a 31-point opening night win. And this is what he said in his postgame, Mick Cronin. We need to understand what we'd have to do with offense on this team. The most important thing in offense, pass the ball to Adem Bona. Verbatim, he said that. Pass the ball to Adem Bona. When Adem Bona is open a low post, pass him in the ball. Literally said that multiple times in his opening statements after a win, that he was frustrated with his team still not passing it to Bona enough. So imagine if they passed it to him more, he could have like 30-plus points. And mind you, he was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year that did not do this offensively. he did not go out and put up 28 points. That's not something he did. Career high in points. We knew the defense. We knew the athleticism, all that. Got healthy with the injured shoulder in the offseason. But he is a focal point offensively, defensively for what the Bruins are trying to do with a bunch of newcomers to be good this year, to even compete. He is the central piece for this team. Of all those star players last year, he is that guy that is important for this year's team.
Now, obviously, outside of Adem Bona, there are names we know, like Lazar Stefanovic, coming from a conference rival in Utah over now to, last year of being a conference rival, I guess we say, though, before we all split up and had our different ways. But outside of Adem Bona, Yax, this team feels like such a mystery to me. I don't know what to think of them. I don't know what to make of them. But thankfully, you can help out in that endeavor, because I just think there's this, we are so dialed in on recruiting American high school basketball players that when you bring in 7 freshmen and 4 of them are Slovenian, Spain, French, and Turkish, it's like we don't have a concept to wrap our brains around what that means and what this team could be. So, Yax, help make sense of the 23-24 Bruins for me.
I'm still trying to make sense myself, right? There's all this hype. There's, you've got Jeff Goodman, who's going out there saying they're not going to make the tournament. That's his bold take. There's repeatedly Joe Lunardi, who's saying, hey, there may be a low 7 seed, 8 seed maybe at this team. This is the team that wasn't in the preseason top 25, except for maybe one coach's poll vote at 25. A very unique team, because we just don't know the skills. And previously in college basketball, we were always a little slow to adapt to the European bigs, or the European or the overseas international players. But now it's almost shifting with how the NBA is shifting. Mick Cronin's trying to be one of the driving forces in this college basketball day and age.
Get on that Tommy Lloyd train.
Yeah. And here UCLA is saying we're overhauling our complete roster with all these international players and the freshmen. But funny enough, that first game, the international players were mostly nowhere to be seen due to either NCAA concern, injury, late last minute concerns, getting eligible and then getting eligible for the minute, or the last game at the last minute. And then you have a guy who played a couple minutes and missed a few shots. So even then, this is a team that's got a lot of question marks. And Mick Cronin said they're only getting playing time because our best players are in the NBA right now, because they left. They didn't earn their time. They still got to earn it. And they've got the big Maui Jim Maui Invitational coming up pretty soon to figure out if this is a real team or not.
Well, yeah. I mean, Yax, you talk about Mick Cronin and him being upset. I love all those quotes, of course, right? Coming from, I can just imagine him saying that. But for me, he's the reason for the optimism. When we get things like what you said about Goodman saying they won't make the tournament, whatever. Mick Cronin knows how to bring a group of young men together and how to make them battle. So what is it about Mick Cronin that, as we think about the wide range of possibilities with this team, that we might be able to trend closer towards the ceiling than the floor?
Well, one of the things he said in his opening statement after that win, my way or the highway, which sometimes isn't always the best thing, but what's Mick Cronin's way? Tough, gritty defenses, tough, gritty ball players, the Bearcat. He always likes to name a player a Bearcat in the name of his Cincinnati days. He's got one of those gritty players in Sebastian Mack, a freshman who's expected to be a big-time scorer for the Bruins this season and needs to be. So this is a team where, if you remember where the Bruins were after the Alford days, right? Heading into the 1920 season pre-COVID, and the season shut down right when UCLA was playing their best basketball. And then a similar slow start in the actual bubble season, and the Bruins made it to the Final Four. And then they actually played well through the whole season. We saw how good the teams could be with the Juzangs and then the Hawkinses of the world. So now that he's got a full 4 years with a roster that was somewhat gutted and needing some redevelop the program, and now he's bringing his own guys, they could easily have 10 losses this year. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to be number 4 in the country. I think it's a little ludicrous to think they won't make the tournament. Oh, dear Jeff Goodman. I like to argue the point that they are a top 25 team, even if they're number 25, considering their recruiting class is amongst the top of the country. That doesn't mean they won't go 0-3 in Maui. They will struggle with some games in the non-conference when they play the Marylands, the Villanovas. But Mick Cronin, what does he do? End of January, February, beginning of March, that team is almost always playing their best basketball. Maybe they back into the tournament like they did a couple of years ago, and they still made it to a Final Four. A team that prides itself on defense is always a very tough out. A Mick Cronin-led team in the tournament. Even if they hadn't reached the ultimate pinnacle, that is generally what he does. And if they can find any shooting from the outside, any shooting, Christmas wish, holiday wish, shooting, find a way to shoot the ball from three, they will go far in the tournament if that happens, guaranteed. Now, that is a whole season search they're going to be looking for with some defense and some freshman struggles in between.
That's it for today's episode of Locked on College Basketball. My thanks to all three of these guys, Matt Sheehan, Cam Stewart, and Zachary Anderson Yaxheimer, for joining me on the show today to give us a little more about Michigan State and Baylor and, of course, UCLA. Again, come join us on our Discord where we're having all these great college basketball conversations all the time. You can follow the show on Twitter, Locked on CBB. Follow me at Isaac Shade. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on video and audio format. Smash the like button, and would love to hear your comments as well. As always, apologies to the lawyer family. Go Wildcats. And until tomorrow when Andy Patton's back with you. Peace.